So for me, when I saw this statement, I was really excited that President Buhari has backtracked from his initial comments about the elections, which were, everything went peacefully. There were no irregularities. Nobody died. My God. I'm happy he has backtracked from that. In this statement, what he said was that there were irregularities alleged by people, and the way to go is the court. At least this is different from calling the elections free, fair, and everything good that he did when the presidential candidates of the APC and President-elect Bola Tinubu went to visit him in Daura. So this is a departure from that. And the truth has to be said. For us to be able to deepen democracy, we must have leaders stand up tall. Because a country is only as strong as the institution. And that is why also I am happy that the federal government have talked about the irregularity. But the question is, what will be done as regards independent national electoral commissions? Irregularities. The court will decide that. Like the court has decided in a case to come as regards TVCs and PVCs, temporary voters cards and the likes. We'll review the story very soon here. We are in a democratic dispensation, and we are back to democratic rules since 1999. We've had like 7 iterations of election cycle. We will abide by the court. But in abiding by the court, Nigerians are also calling on the judiciary to stand tall. In recent times, people have lost confidence in the judiciary. And people are taken aback. And the judiciary too has not reestablished that level of confidence. We all saw here when the Supreme Court was reacting and abusing in Nigeria for writing articles about how it feels about the Supreme Court judgments, which the Supreme Court should never do. So I think most importantly, the eyes of the people are on the Supreme Court judges as this case pan out. And the truth has to be told. Nigerians will look at you critically. And whatever you do in the determination of this will deepen or destroy democracy in this country. And that's why a lot of Nigerians are imploring you that please do the best you can for the country in accordance with the law. No pressure. President Muhammadu Buhari going to Doha, yes, one of his last outings, as things will be wrapping up for him on May 29, saying all the good stuff, talking about things on the diplomatic front, making a case for Nigeria. But the most important question is, and what behoves on this new administration, is how to repair our image that has been damaged on the international scene. Because anybody that is right thinking about Nigeria should know that when all those countries say things about Nigeria with their media outlets, the Economist, the Times, and the likes, it feeds back to the way and the perception an average Nigerian citizen is treated. So the next government has to repair that image. And how do we repair the image? We repair the image with justice and integrity. So for me, I'm happy President Muhammadu Buhari has backtracked. And now from his statement, the presidency has been able to say, yes, there were irregularities, unlike the first one, he said.
Indeed. So, Malam Garba Shehu was presenting this report based on the outing by the president to Doha in Qatar for the United Nations Conference on Least Developing Countries. And as part of that report, he shared what the president has said to diasporans on his outlook on the last election and some of the key things, RUFAI, you've mentioned. And the first thing he had said was that, one of the things I'd like to highlight in what he said was that he had referred to what he spoke about before the elections, that this election would reflect the wishes of Nigeria and the outcome would be only what Nigerians voted for. Now, the body language of the president, to be fair to him, before the elections had been very consistent. Beyond his body language, his words, his affirmations, what he has said concerning his commitment to a free, fair, credible, and as Malam Shehu said, transparent elections. In fact, it was almost a song. We all knew the FFC, free, fair, credible. And so it inspired hope in a lot of Nigerians to go out to exercise their franchise, believing that this was going to be an election with a difference. And he also made the right moves. He signed in the Electoral Act of 2022. He also had said that this election will be technology-driven to minimize incidents of rigging and irregularities. Unfortunately, the reality post-election or during the election, we didn't even get to the polls before there were complaints. In fact, famously, former President Olusegun Obasanjo had written a letter to the president asking him to cancel the elections because it had been marred with a lot of irregularities. He called the president to step in whilst the results were still being announced. And this is because INEC and its chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, had come under a lot of criticism from political actors and Nigerians themselves. For the president to say that this election, or compare it perhaps to the June 12, 1993 election, it's quite interesting because June 12, 1993 election is said to be perhaps the freest, fairest election since independence that Nigeria's had, reflecting the will of the people, where we had a Muslim candidate or candidacy, yet people were more concerned about moving the country forward and voting the personalities they felt could best represent Nigeria at the time. Unfortunately, the General Babangida had annulled the elections, and this was met with widespread protests and violence following that. Comparing that election to this election is interesting because beyond Nigerians and local analysts criticizing this election for being marred with irregularities, international media and personalities and observers have also called to question the integrity of the election. Yes, the president can speak about his perception. I mean, famously, when Asiwaju Bola Tinubu went to present his certificate to him in Daura, he had shared the same sentiments that this was a fantastic election. It was well done. However, when you feel the pulse of the people, and from analysts, it doesn't reflect that. So there are two things on our end here that perhaps we begin to see, which was the question I asked when he first said that is the president not in touch with what is going on in terms of the violence that marred the elections? Do we talk about the ballot box snatching, the disenfranchisement of people in Warri? Do we talk about the attacks here in Lagos? Do we talk about what happened in Kano State? Do we talk about pockets of violence and irregularities? Right from the registration of voters, this election had been marred with irregularities. So for him to say this, it's quite interesting. But we continue to watch. As he said, if you have local standing, go to the courts, and the principal parties of the PDP and the Labour Party have indeed approached the courts. It still unfolds.
I think it's a fairly straightforward matter. It doesn't require any long discourse. Number one, the president said that, look, Bola Tinubu has won this election. He's the presidential candidate of his party, now president-elect. You will expect him naturally to say that Bola Tinubu has won. But he's not in a position to say that the election stands. That's not the import of his statement. What is the import of his statement? He said, anybody that is aggrieved, has a locus, go to court. Don't take the law into your hands. In that regard, the president spoke as a statesman. He was at an international community. We're told this is a major takeaway from his participation at the 5th United Nations Conference on least developed nations or countries. So the president, will naturally talk to the international community against the background of his own awareness of how Nigerians at home have reacted to the election, complaining that they have grievances, and how the international community, particularly the Western media, from Washington Post to Chatham House to Süddeutsche Zeitung to the economists, all saying that this was a flawed electoral process. But what the laws of Nigeria provided for is that whoever is aggrieved has a locus and should go to court. So to the extent that the president upheld that, he was talking like a statesman. That's in order. The second point is that he was holding on to the democratic credential that had been conferred on him, and I use the word conferred on him, by the international community, because at that Qatar conference, the chairman of the ECOWAS, President Embalo, of Guinea-Bissau, had said that the ECOWAS was going to honor President Buhari for his contributions to the development of democracy in the Western region. Well, if you go to a conference and they tell you you are a symbol of democracy, of course, you will make the right statement. The third point was what he said about he never had any intention to annul the general elections of 2023. He was comparing it with the 1993 general election that was annulled. Well, even if he wished to, he would not have been able to, because the circumstances are different. In 1993, Nigeria was still under the grips of the military junta. In 2023, Nigeria is in a military dispensation. The leader of a presidential democratic contest such as we have will only be causing chaos if he or any of his acolytes or allies pretend that they could, by fiat, annul the elections that brought out millions of Nigerians and for which 93.4 million Nigerians were registered as voters. So in that regard, that's a no-brainer. So even if he says he will never annul, he doesn't even have the powers to do so under a democratic dispensation, except he wants to cause chaos. The fourth point, however, is the contribution of the president at that conference of least developed nations on sustainable development and Nigeria's contribution in terms of joining other countries of the world to stress the importance of the SDG goals, the social development goals, which came after the Millennium Development Goals. The need to combat poverty, the need to fight climate change, the need for concerted global action to ensure sustainable development in the southern, the underprivileged part, in the global equation. Nigeria being part of that conversation and President Buhari representing us as the chief foreign policy officer of the country, I think was a good idea. And, that's the important thing. But as to what will happen to the February 25 presidential election, that now is for the tribunal and the courts to determine. Even President Buhari does not have a say in the outcome of that process, at least if due process is followed, if formal established procedure is allowed to function. That's just about it.
All right, good morning. I needed to share this video. There is RUFAI and the Arise TV. Two people, they're reacting to the statement made by the President Muhammadu Buhari. You remember, like immediately after the election, he said that, hey, the election was okay, was good, and blah, blah, blah. It just said something as if nothing went wrong. But hey, this is him saying that, okay, we admitted that something happened, but he now made a statement that, yeah, that the presidency of president-elect, the president-elect victory stand, which he don't start another conversation entirely. But then all the same, he went further to say that, okay, if you are not happy with the results of the election, just go to the court, approach the court and seek your victory from the judiciary, which the process has been going on. The Labour Party, the APC, PDP, everybody is already in the court. So, and we are waiting for what will happen next, what the judgment will be like, and so that the right person and the mandate can go to whoever has it. So that's what Buhari said about this election when he was addressing, when he was giving a speech somewhere. And I just want you to drop your comments, leave your comments. Let's hear, what do you think about what Buhari don't talk, and what's your own opinion about everything? And of course, make sure you share this video, make sure you let it get to everyone, make sure that you like our page, and make sure that you are okay, make sure that you are fine. Enjoy yourself today. Thank you so much for watching. My name is David History, and I'm bringing more updates to you. Take care of yourself.